Racing a small two-stroke bike. Erich Wolf realized after World War II that Germany needed to use a pre-war method to save fuel because of the shortages. The previously known fuel saver was invented by Kurt Limbach in 1938 that, thanks to the physics discovered by Michel Cadenassi in 1933, used gas dynamics in cones to reuse fuel. After Walter Kaden created measured cones in the exhausts again, he realized that the power of a two-stroke MZ easily doubled compared to the pre-World War II two-stroke motorcycles.
And here's Ernst Stegner on his East German MZ.
This meant that with the smaller CCs and the cylinder port map working with the exhaust, you could easily win with the two-stroke against the four-stroke of the same CC. In racing, this meant that new smaller classes emerged, going down from 125cc in the 62 to 50cc. This tuning method kept developing through the years, and even today there are still new two-stroke racing parts being developed.
Hey, Puch fans, that's why we are here at the headquarters, so to say, of Rush, to find out how these parts are drawn, manufactured and tested, to see what is the ultimate, perhaps, Puch Maxi that you can build, whether it's for the road or for racing. Let's find out more. Hey, Stijn.
Hi, I'm Peter.
Okay, awesome. So I'm at Rush here, right?
You're right.
Okay, so why? What is Rush?
Rush manufactures performance parts for Puchs.
Alright, so why? Because there is a lot, of course. We already have a lot on the shop, but why, well, create an entirely new? Because there is an extra bearing in their engine.
Yeah, so basically we've been testing and racing our Puch bike for several years now, and we started at the Mopfest endurance race, and we had a different crankshaft first off the shelf, and that was not meeting our expectations with balance factor, with durability. So we decided to make one ourselves, which met our needs.
Okay then. Well, obviously then, as you can already hear, we're talking about racing. So no regular Puch Maxi will need this part probably, unless you're going crazy in terms of horsepower. But okay, so you needed a different part, and what was the requirement? Did you need a bigger big end bearing? Did you need extra balance in the engine, or what was it?
Indeed, the balance factor, because we run a 70cc engine, the piston is heavier and we wanted a different balance factor than what is available.
All right. And the performance-wise, so to say?
So performance-wise, this engine runs smoother, less
yeah, but
vibrations.
like horsepower-wise?
We are at 21 horsepower.
Yeah, that's not your average Puch Maxi, guys.
We're running up to 15,000 RPM. It's quite critical then, and it needs to last. So in the Mopfest it's for 4 hours. Yeah, there we've been really testing with these parts to see if they hold up.
Okay.
And actually they hold up really well.
Yeah.
And it increases our performance, because with this bearing in the clutch cover, what we do is we make the crankshaft more stable.
Yeah.
So there's less bending, and yeah, we tested on the dyno with this bearing and without, and we get about up to 3-4% extra horsepower, just because the crankshaft is more stable at these really high RPMs.
Cool. Wow. All right. So it has really a lot of factors that will benefit from this.
Yeah.
And then the axle of your crank must be longer then, because it needs to be extended towards that extra bearing.
Indeed, so these cranks are handmade to our specifications. It's modified compared to an original one. There's an additional part on top of it, which is grinded with the full crankshaft to be perfectly in line.
All right.
And that gives us this extra interface point where this bearing can support the clutch side.
Yeah, of course, because you got to take into account that the bell is already an extra weight, then a clutch is inside, so it must be at least the weight of like a normal flywheel, you would say, that you would like match with it in terms of weight.
I think so. So all drive power goes through the clutch, and basically what this does is it creates a torque which is held by the big end. So our big end is already a bit bigger and maximized with the diameter of the big end pin and the press fit. But still, this extra bearing at the end basically cancels out this torque and makes it more stable. But I think it also fits in the regular engine.
Okay.
But yeah, we suggest to use it with this extra bearing for stability and
of course,
and performance.
Yeah. All right, and the big end, like in terms of like specifications, that is 14 mil, 16?
I think it's 16 millimeters, so slightly bigger than what you see normally.
Let's find out more. Let's see how they're made in some way, at least drawing-wise. Let's test them. As you said, there's a nice dyno over there, so let's see what it does. And Peter here might show you how fast it goes on the road. Let's go.
So the way we develop our parts, this is an example. We 3D scanned the IG engine casing to machine them directly to the cylinder which we're using. So what we did is we 3D scanned it, modeled it in CAD, and this is for the intake. We have a custom milled block.
Yeah, it's big.
So what we do is we put this ADI engine on the CNC mill, and we mill the channels in the casing, we mill the hole for the intake, we mill the intake block. So it's all CNC made in a single clamping operation. So that's the most accurate.
Yeah.
And yeah, using this cut, we can also position our carburetor. We develop this clutch cover, we put it directly in the right place.
Yeah.
We position the bearing. Yeah, and this way we're able to make the parts first time right, basically.
Yeah. Hi.
Hi,
Stijn.
Peter.
Okay, so another guy behind Rush.
So this is how you're gonna receive the package. It's very complete. It has the bearing, the cover and the bolts to mount the cover.
Beautiful. Look at that CNC milling, guys. Oh.
It's quite strong, thick walls to give the bearing enough support.
Beautiful. Okay, so it has an extra bearing.
Yes, that's correct. It fits the extra extension here on the crankshaft.
Yeah.
And that gives the crankshaft an extra support because the clutch makes a high RPM, quite heavy, and the tap of the crankshaft is quite long. So extra support and more stability. For example, this is a pin of a big end pin from a 50cc racing engine. You can see here a small line on the big end pin, and on the other side there's nothing. That is caused by the movement of the webs of the crankshaft. What happens then is this. This pin was probably too hard.
Yeah, you can also see it with the piston pen.
Yeah.
Yeah, it happens too. You can really see once you've used the piston pen for a long time or even reused it, don't do that. Then you can also see lines appearing on the pin. Awesome example.
You can eliminate a lot of this formation in the crankshaft.
Yeah, and for your information guys, the fact that he knows all about this is because how many years you got in those two-stroke tuning performance-wise?
A little bit scared for now, but more than 20 years.
Yeah, at least. So he knows.
Yeah.
All right, so let's mount this then. You're gonna press this, right?
Yes, we're going to press the bearing in the cover. You have to make some soft tissue or something else under the press because of the markings on the cover to avoid any damage. When you're going to press in, find something that's in diameter a little bit smaller than the bearing. Do it very gentle, and when you feel a little bit of extra force in the pressure, then it hit the backside so it's fitted in the right position. So now we can put it on the engine. Here you see the extension tip. When you mount the cover, make sure that the bearing is nice and flat, because it's a special bearing that can correct some small disalignments. So now we're going to put the cover on.
And just for your info guys, normally if you would really do this, because this is just an example, you gotta use Loctite on this because the heat and all the tension, you'll need Loctite. But we're not gonna do that now because it's just an example. This is gonna be quite something, guys. As you can hear, I can yell, but it's not really, there's no echo. Yeah. We're gonna find out how much horsepower this actually, and of course that's with a cylinder that they make, but that's just for the racer. but it's to show what the crank can actually hold. That's the important part. If you have a setup that has a lot of horsepower, this is the crank that's gonna support that.
So for the development of our Puch parts, we also have a prototype engine for ourselves. On this engine we made a custom designed cylinder to push the performance to the maximum limit. This engine is currently running at 23 and a bit horsepower, and we think we can push it a bit further, and we're basically using this to develop our parts and test them to see if they meet the needs and expectations which we have.
So guys, this was an awesome test, and as you can see, this product will hold. So guys, thank you so much for
Nice to have you here.
yeah, showing us everything and all the products and how far it goes in terms of tuning, and yeah, and you can get these products on our web shop, because yes, that crankshaft and of course the side cover, the clutch cover with the extra bearing is live on the website, so you can check them out, and of course the video will be linked there as well. So again, thank you so much. Subscribe, hit the bell notification so that you'll be up to date, and to see if we upload more. Sorry if we don't upload that often anymore. But nevertheless, comment down below what you want to see in terms of tutorials or products, and we'll see you the next time. Later.